going to talk about the little LCD display in these Volvo, or actually VDO, tachometer displays. These are common in older Volvo engines as well as Yanmar and even Kenworth trucks. So the repair is actually quite simple, even though many people believe they have to replace the entire display. Unfortunately, if you do replace the entire display, you lose your hours for that engine. Not something we want to do. Now, I'm just going to turn this on briefly so that you can see exactly what happens with this display. So there's the numbers. They're faint. Actually, they're working kind of right now, sort of, and then they sort of fade out. That's kind of a common problem with these things. Sometimes they show random values. Sometimes they seem to flicker on and off or cycle through numbers. Either way, it's not reliable. The good news is this repair is quite simple. Oftentimes the hardest thing is just getting behind the dash where you can remove the gauge. In this case, on a Navigator 4200, the access is easy. I've removed the light and the connector, and now you can see the two knurled nuts that need to be removed to pop that gauge out of the dashboard. Okay, so here's our tachometer, just pushed out of the dashboard after removing these two thumb screws. Next thing you need to do is take off the trim ring, which is just a bayonet. We just take that off, get some space there. Now we're just going to take, I don't know if you can see, 3 screws recessed into the housing. Once we take those out, we pop the whole thing out of its shell. Okay, next we're going to slide a socket wrench right down on top of these long bolts here and unscrew them. They're actually just a fastener on the other side as well. And once we pop those out, you may not be able to see this, but you take the housing and you turn it about 5 degrees, and then you can just push it right through. Okay, and now we're down to the parts that are interesting. These 2 screws need to come off on the faceplate, and we'll be taking the needle off of the tachometer. So it's a good time to note where your tachometer is pointing. It may not be at 0. Sometimes the tach will stop. It'll stop up here where it was idling. So just make a note. If it's not 0, maybe take a piece of blue tape or something and make a mark so that you can get it back to the same place. All right, after removing these 2 screws, which we should note, I'm putting on a white piece of paper along with the needle that I just pulled straight off. Have yourself some space to be organized. I'm using a different color tablecloth here, a towel, just so that I can not lose track of any of my parts. Some of these are quite tiny. All right, after removing the screws, off comes the faceplate. Now you can see the little display here. And you can see underneath a short cable run that ends right here. That's it. We're just going to replace that display from there to there. By taking this, I pull these screws out a little bit more on the ends, we can get it, but I think I can probably just reach in here even without pulling the screws out. Okay, these type of cables, these flat flex cables, plug into what's called a ZIF, or zero insertion force socket. I just lift up on the end here a little bit to release this kind of locking piece. We'll just slide along here, and then we can just grab that cable and pull it right out of the socket. Now be gentle, they're fragile, and that's it, just comes out like that. Now, to get our display out, I'm going to use a tool that is called a spudger. And the spudger is just a little plastic hook that won't damage fine electrical parts when you're working with it, because this display is just held in here with double sticky tape. And we're going to leave that tape behind to hold the new one in. If you don't have a spudger, you can use a guitar pick, popular choice, or even just take a credit card, an old one, and cut it up and just use the edge. But the point is to use something that's plastic, that's not going to damage other plastics or important parts in here. Okay, now we put our faceplate back on. Now my needle was pointing at 0, so I'm just going to line this back up again. Get it right where it was, and then push it on. That's it, just goes back. Okay, now the whole assembly gets reinserted into the housing with the lens first. But before we do the lens, this is your big chance to clean the inside of this lens. So I'm going to take a minute and clean. Okay, now with our needle back in place and the glass clean, it's just a matter of sliding it back in place. And we're going to spin it around till it engages properly. There's a little trim ring that goes around the outside, and then the lens. That's it. Now we'll put our fasteners back on and we're ready to reinstall. All right, I've reassembled and reinstalled that tachometer, and now the litmus test. We'll turn on the ignition, and nice, bright, clear, crisp numbers. Now we can see our hours again. The part cost on this is approximately $10 for one of these displays. I'll put a link on our website for where we purchased these on eBay, and also in the notes for this video. Thanks for watching.